Hello, everybody. Welcome to Personal Flash Paper, an Infinity podcast with a focus on beginner topics in the game of Infinity. On this episode, we're going to do a little hobby desk talk. We're going to talk rule of the episode, which we're going to do NCO and tactical awareness, two new rules from the third offensive.
Third offensive.
And we're going to also talk a little bit about Hobby Wobble. All right, so today Randy is not with us, so I'm your host Ryan.
And I'm your other host, Rob.
All right, so let's get into it, Rob.
Yeah, strip it down.
Yeah, so I hold in my greedy little hands a new book.
Would that happen to be the book that I took a picture of us or of you reading the other day?
The very same book. Yeah, and that was only yesterday, by the way, not the other day.
Yeah, there's been a slight logistical snafu I think everybody has kind of experienced with the dropping of the third offensive. So we won't, necessarily beat that dead horse anymore, because it'll only tenderize the meat at this time. But we do have in our possessions the hard copy of the third offensive from Corvus Belli.
All right, now, Rob, you say let's not beat that dead horse, but I think we should bring it up. I think we should talk about so people know what we're talking about, not just assume people know what we're talking about.
That's a good point.
So what happened is there was a shipping snafu somewhere. Whose fault? I'm not going to say because it depends on who you ask. But basically what happened is some stores didn't get their full order. Some stores didn't get their order at all. Some stores just got the book without the miniature. Now, the distributor, and when I say distributor, I mean the big global distributor, not Corvus Belli. There's several third-party distributors that handle their products.
Yep.
Are shipping the models after. So I got the book, Rob got the book, but the model will come in another shipment and we'll be able to go in and pick it up. So we're still getting the Helot model, but it's not, the shipping and was not as smooth this time around. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people say Corvus Belli dropped the ball. I have known many distributors, and a lot of times I don't necessarily think that's the case. Again, I'm not going to say that it is the distributor's fault because I don't 100% know, but I think before people just start throwing around blame, you should maybe wait and just talk to your local store or whoever you order your models from or your book from and just see if they're getting it and to get it resolved. It's an issue.
Yeah, and you're going to want to do that sooner than later. And the reason I say that is because this is a really busy time of year. If you haven't paid attention to, the Christmas carols or the holiday season, this is kind of a busy season for your local game stores who are typically a mom and pop type organization who may be a little understaffed in the rush and the build up to the Christmas holiday or the holy grail of retail sales.
Yeah, I mean, I think this time of year does some weird stuff, right? People.
You think?
Well, I mean, people get kind of grouchy. Everybody gets rushed and they get slammed, and everybody wants everything now, which is we are a victim of the society we've created. So just bear that in mind when dealing with your local gaming store, that they are doing what they can, and there's going to be limitations on all of this stuff. I mean, shipping's going to be longer, crowds are going to be bigger, all of that.
And, one of the things that has really helped me track a lot of the angst and talk to the local game store here in Kansas City that we deal with has been a lot of social media. Posting things to a social media network that says, oh, my local game store sucks. No, it's not the local game store's fault. It's this distributor or, a problem with the shipping or a problem with the logistics. And, talking on the Facebook group to help diffuse or, try to, belay a lot of the anger seems to help.
Yeah, I mean, now, don't get us wrong. It could be your local store. You could have one of those local stores. We used to have a couple of those in the area that probably should have taken a lot of the blame. Those stores are no longer around, but...
Yeah, and I think, talking about social media and talking about local game stores, I think that a lot of word of mouth advertising has really helped weed the game troll type or gamer caves out of the way to nicer stores or stores that have a focus on customer service.
Yep. I think you can always tell, especially in retail, when things aren't right. right? So you just kind of have to bear with that.
But with all of that being said, I know that our Facebook group has been outstanding in terms of support for us on the show and the feedback that we've been getting. So, really kudos to you guys for throwing stuff out there or just reaching out to us individually.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we say it every episode, but we do mean it. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach us, at the Facebook group, personal flash paper there. You can email to us at personalflashpaperinfinity@gmail.com. Again, that email is set up on my phone too, so I will get those throughout the day and be able to get back to you. But there are a lot of good Infinity Facebook groups out there, so there's a lot of good talk, and so I think it's just a really good community to get involved with.
Oh yeah. And if you are new to the game of Infinity and you've picked a faction, chances are there is a Facebook group for that faction, for that group that you can just join. And every community or every Facebook group that I have been a part of, whether it's Ariadna or the Nomads group or Aleph, a lot of good tips, a lot of good tactics, and a really good community overall.
I wasn't sure how to bring this up, but this has led me into a rabbit hole there, talking about the Infinity community. For those of you who don't know, the Infinity community lost someone about a week ago now, or 2 weeks ago now. So the owner of Black Sheep Industries, Luke, passed away. Monday. Yeah, he passed away unexpectedly. He was in a car wreck several years ago, and then I guess this is just a culmination of some other issues came up, complications, and he had a heart attack, from my understanding, or something along those lines.
Yeah, sorry I believe it was a heart attack.
And he passed away. It's really sad. I have one of his tournament boxes. It was a Bug Eater tournament 2 years ago, which is a tournament in Nebraska. There was a screw up with the shipping, and we didn't have them in time for the tournament, and Rob got a hold of him, and on the Saturday of the tournament, Luke got those things out to you early that next week. It was very apologetic. It was really cool.
Yeah, super cool guy. He also is a friend of the show, PFP, and talking with Grant Feder, he created the PFP terrain pieces that a lot of people got as prize support for Wapaka 8, I think it was, maybe Wapaka 7.
Yeah, wasn't this last one, was the one before that, so yeah.
Right.
And they were just basically like shipping container looking things, so they were really kind of cool. I have mine, so I'll paint it up.
Yep, mine's actually in my airbrush station right now. I keep looking at it and I think about, all the good times that we had at Wapaka, and knowing that it was a Black Sheep Industries, and, like you talked about with Bug Eater, this community of Infinity is something that is special.
Yep, it really is. You also had a loss in your life, Rob, and I will say that one of the things that I talked to you about, and I also was speaking to my wife, is that several people who knew our relationship, who are friends with both of us, sent me messages just concerned with you, checking in on you, and it really, kind of touched me that these people were like, they cared about you, they cared about you enough to not bother you, but to reach out to me just to check in to see how you were doing.
Yeah, and I also reached out to some of those guys because they reached out to me. Tor Swanson, Sean Polschel, you guys are great. Amongst many people that reached out, and just it was really humbling to know that people care enough about me to reach out to you, and it's so awe-inspiring to be a part of this great community.
Yeah, it really is. It is really kind of a really touching thing to know that there's people that we haven't met or see once a year if we're lucky, that care enough to check in.
Yep.
All right. All right. I'll bring us back up now, everybody.
Yeah. We're starting out low and we're going high. We're going, all the way to the stratosphere, baby.
All right, Rob. So what are you drinking on this episode?
I am drinking some strong black coffee, just like my soul. Strong, black, and bitter with some Irish cream. And it's more Irish cream than it is coffee.
Now, is it your generic Irish cream, Rob, or is it good stuff?
It's Costco brand, baby. I am cheap.
Ugh. All right. I am having, and surprise, surprise, Boulevard American Brown Ale.
We should totally get them to support this show.
That's not, I don't normally drink the beers. I'm not a huge fan of them, but it's what I grabbed in the fridge, and it's all right. It has the typical issue I kind of have with a lot of, I'm going to do air quotes, fancier beers where the aftertaste kind of gets me after a while.
Oh, I guess.
Man, that was a stretch for a mind gutter thing.
Oh no, it was not a stretch because I was just like, well, if you just keep swallowing it, it goes away.
Robert.
The edit button.
Yep. All right. So let's do a little hobby desk, Rob. What you working on?
So currently on my desk, I've got roughly 12 different Ariadne troops. I've got Rosie the Riveter. I've got Van Zant, Gen Con edition, Isabella McGregor, and then just some Foxtrots, an engineer, a conversion of the Kazakh doctor, who I have affectionately named Big Whiskey. That's more of a
that's the one that uses the hat, right? That I gave you.
Yeah, that's it. He's got a big top hat with some goggles on it that Ryan gave me. That is a Malifaux bit.
Yeah, it was a Malifaux bit.
Yeah, and a 68 whiskey in the U.S. Army military MOS jargon jobs is an Army medic, and so that's why I've named him Big Whiskey. So
nice.
Yeah. So what are you working on, buddy?
All right. I posted a picture, I think it was last night. I had finished my R drone for my combined army. I need to do the base. I need to make a base for it. Next up in the Onyx side are 6 Unidrons. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
6 Unidrons.
That's right, 6 Unidrons. Well, so there's the sniper rifle, missile launcher, Spitfire, and then 3 plasma Unidrons, regular dudes.
Nice. Is 6 the max AVA for those?
No, I think they're AVA total. 6 is just what I have because I will typically I'll typically use 3 of the plasma and then 2 special weapons guys. But I'm actually switching gears from those for a minute because we have a limited insertion order tournament coming up in January, and I'm actually going to do vanilla combined for that, and so I need to swap some models into the rotation and get those painted for that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that Infinity tournament, in all honesty.
Yeah, it should be a good time. I am also attempting to get another table painted and ready for that. So my plan is to have a completely painted 300-point limited insertion vanilla combined army done and a brand new table to expose to the world.
And so, you talked about changing gears. You've talked about making a new table for Infinity. And this is a really good segue in my mind for Hobby Wobble.
Yeah, I was setting that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hobby Wobble, for those of you who don't know the term, is basically also kind of known as the shiny syndrome. It's basically when you get working on something, you're not quite complete with a project, but something else catches your eye. Something else draws your attention, either a new faction, a new model, something pulls your attention from what you're doing to something else. So shiny syndrome because it's new and shiny. Hobby Wobble because you're kind of on the edge. You're like, oh, what do I do? Which I stay with what I'm currently working on or go to this new shiny cool thing. And with the release of Third Offensive, there's a lot of cool new shiny things.
Yes, and for those of you that have been following the Hobby Streak and my beloved Mr. Blue, who is part of my JSA or non-aligned armies because Miyamoto Musashi can be in so many different things, I've had to put him on the back burner so that I can get the rest of the Ariadne done so that I can jump back to either JSA or Enforcers or just whatever, because to Ryan's point, there is so much shiny and it is so damn cool.
Yep, it is. And I suffer from it too. So going in when Third Offensive was coming out, I was looking at it before, just the rumors, and I'm like, I really like the Morats. I've said that multiple times. I don't know why I actually haven't gotten them completed, but I have a lot of them, and I need to get them done and on the table. But I started with military orders. Well, we all know military orders got a tweak and some changes, and some of that stuff is really cool. So I looked at going back into doing that. I really like the idea of the Invincible Army. So that was new. So now I'm like, well, damn it, I really like those guys. But just too much stuff, right? If you keep looking, nothing's going to get done. So
that is a true story. If you just keep looking, nothing's going to get done.
Yeah. So Rob and I had this discussion, and I came up and we talked about it. I came up with this game plan. So we're gonna probably have to put some caveats on it, but this is our. And Corvus Billy, sorry, you're not gonna like this game plan, but trust me, it'll be fine in the long run.
In the long run, it's all about the long run, baby.
Yeah. So my plan is I'm gonna get the Onyx Contact Force. I'm gonna get the 2 300-point lists. I have one that I'm pretty satisfied with, and I'm gonna work on the other one, and I'm gonna get those 2 300-point lists finalized that I like, and I'm gonna get them painted. Right. I'm gonna paint those 300-point lists, and then I'm gonna move to the Morats, and I'm gonna get at least one 300-point Morat list painted before I buy anything new. So
buy anything new. Yeah. So things that you've already purchased or things that you trade for, are those acceptable to slide into the queue?
Yes. So trade for, because that's my asterisk, right? So I have some I have a list of stuff that I'm just trying to get rid of now, right? So I'm not going to. So my idea was I'm not going to purchase or bring anything new into the household. So if I already have it, it's here, right? I'm not buying it new. I'm not bringing it in. If I trade for it, I'm really technically not buying it there either. But my thought process is, if I'm not spending money out, right? So even trading it, doing all this stuff, all that stuff will count. I can do that. Now, the only other caveat I really kind of want to put on this, if there's an exclusive model, like the Helot, right? Like I have to order something
in order to get
that model. Now, I don't know what it'd be. Maybe because, for example, I didn't do the Operation Cold Front. I didn't get that. I didn't pre-order it, so I don't have that exclusive model, right?
You don't have the War Driver.
Yeah, correct. Now, actually, that's the only thing in there I really liked. I was like, that's the piece I really want. But I was like, I don't need any other stuff, right? I want the dice and I want the War Driver, so I'm not going to buy the 100-point box just to get those pieces and then try to sell everything else off. So the things I'll be looking for is what happens at Adepticon, what happens at Gen Con. Now, by Gen Con, I would surely hope that I will have it done. So I'll be back on it.
Oh, you dreamer.
I know, I said surely hope. And I got a pretty good chance because I laid out all my Onyx. And again, right now, I have 6 Unidrons left. And then the only other thing I'm looking at on that right now is Bit and Kiss and Overdrawn. So that's really 9 models, which isn't too bad. Then all of my Morats, or most of my Morats, are assembled and primed and Zenithal primed so that they're ready to start painting. So, I don't have a lot of build time in there. It's just going to be paint time.
So real quick, Ryan, we're talking about the Hobby Wobble. You just mentioned Zenithal priming. And so just real quick, go over that, because I've seen several people in either WGC or one of the actual sub-faction forums talk about Zenithal priming as a way to speed up their painting, to make their painting better. And I don't know if everyone really understands what you or I might mean by Zenithal priming.
All right, so Zenithal priming is basically a way of pre-shading and highlighting your model, right? It's Zenithal, meaning it's like where's the peak of the light source and the light radiating out from that cast shadows. So it really works. Now, if we were talking about a grim dark future game, it really works great if you're playing army men in the upper atmosphere, because did you like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Because they're all like big blocks of armor. So like these guys, I'm gonna be blue. And so you can do blue real easy. If you look at, anybody looks at my Pano stuff, that's how I did them. So I took blue. So I primed the model black all over, let that sit and cure for about a day. Now, do you need to do that step? Maybe. Well, we can discuss that. I also have had lots of conversations about having the model sit. I prefer to make sure the primer is fully set and fully cured, because that's the piece that your paint is sticking to, that just making it stick to the metal model. So, and then what you do is you take a really dark, for my Pano, I took a really dark blue, and I basically, over my black primer, sprayed from straight on. So, chest height all the way around the model, right? not from down below shooting up into the crevices, but at chest height and above, right? So I'm looking at the model, I'm looking at a flat 90-degree angle at the model, rotating all the way up to a 0, right, from the straight top down, right? And then you let that, you do that, and then you take a lighter shade of blue and you spray it again, but this time you don't go all the way around. For me, I almost always have the light source coming from the upper left shoulder down on the model. So I would spray that part and then rotate the model, just twisting it in my hand and not all the way around. So I'm not spraying all of the model. I'm just spraying from basically the light source up. And so this time now at about a 45-degree angle, spraying, basically from, let's just say, the left pec to for the right pec, all the way across the left side of the body, all the way back to the right shoulder blade. So I'm not hitting the right arm and the far right side of the body.
So
right?
That area is still that darker shade.
Correct. Right. And I'm also spraying from the top down. So I'm going to get some overcast. So you are going to get some stuff on that right side that's just going to have to fall through.
But it's minimal.
Yes. Yeah. And then I get a lighter shade of blue. And again, I'm shooting my at a little bit higher than a 45, right? Shooting down on the shoulder. And this time I'm only doing basically from almost like the left pec around the left side of the body to the left shoulder blade. So again, now I've got basically a gradient. Black from down underneath, dark blue on the far right, a medium blue on the right chest and back, and then a lighter blue on the left chest and back to the left side. And then depending on how highlight you wanted to get, you can then do a white. And the white you're going to do just straight down from the top, just off the head, right over the left shoulder, right? You're just hitting it from a blast straight down. Now, as you do it more and more, and depending on the airbrush, and again, I use an airbrush. You can do it with rattle cans. You have to work a little faster if you do it with rattle cans because your spray that you're putting out is a little thicker. An airbrush works exceptionally well. You can YouTube videos that talk about it a lot, and we'll give you examples and show you what you're doing, and then just kind of developing the thing that works for you. For example, I will do all of that, but at each level, I may actually rotate the airbrush or the model and spray a little bit extra.
Yep, and there's also, in addition to the YouTube videos that Ryan's talking about, there are also, the masterclass books that Corvus Belli has put out that go over not only these techniques, but other, techniques, glazes, washes, how to use masking, things like that. There's just a plethora of information that's out there and available. So, if there is something that, we talk about that you may have a question on, hit us up. Drop us a line individually, drop us a line on the Facebook, start that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And I really need, Rob and I intended to make YouTube videos for this stuff. I don't have a great setup. I still have to try to figure out how to do that. And again, time really has not been my friend on getting that stuff to you all, because I want to do stuff that actually has a decent quality. So I need to figure out how to get that for you, the people out there.
Yeah, and I'm also in the process of moving, so I'm hopeful that when we move and get things set back up at the new homestead, that the area that I will have for my hobby space will be a little bit more conducive to actually running videos. But see, there's a prime example of a segue of going from talking about zenithal priming and how to do a whole bunch of things to YouTube videos, to the shiny, to all the things that causes Hobby Wobble.
Yeah, yes, you're correct. There's lots of those things, right? I will say that, part of me for the Hobby Wobble really is things that inspire me model-wise, right? So I actually was converting the Red Demon, as I had nicknamed him, my Daiokai from the Curry Army, and I moved it aside. I put it away. I was like, I'm not gonna work on it yet. I've got to get these other things done, and it's gonna lead a lot of time. And then last night, flipping through Facebook, there's somebody throws a conversion of their Daiokai up there with
the Tetsubos.
Yes, and I'm like,
Adam Benavidu. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm like, son of a bitch, that looks good. Yep.
Oh, that thing is so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just like, Yeah, I'm not gonna do JSA now.
Yeah, and I didn't. I mean, I didn't pull mine out and start working on it, but I was like, "Yep, that's pretty cool."
Yeah, and he did some green stuff on the helmet as well.
Yeah, it's
To
like a
give it
squid octopus.
squid
I think.
octopus. Yep.
I think it's an octopus actually.
Yeah, and going from Hobby Wobble and seeing what's out there and talking about what inspires you, what drives you, and that can be used to drive your hobby to the next level. So hobbying is not like a lot of other things. There is a huge learning curve to it, and Hobby Wobble can also happen whenever you get disenfranchised. You see something that is cool, like that badass Diokai that has the Tetsugos, that's all green stuffed out to the wazoo, or Obadiah Hampton's Rosie the Riveter tank hunter conversion. Yeah, it's okay. They have been doing this stuff for years. They have natural talent. I used to play basketball. As much as I would love to have thought that I could have competed in the NBA, no, I'm a 5'9" white guy from the Midwest. It ain't gonna happen, baby. So does that mean that I don't love basketball anymore? Not at all. I still watch and love basketball, and the same thing can be said about hobbying. You can do you. It is not a contest of you versus another guy and what they're doing. It's what inspires you. What makes your hobbying to the next level? How can you get there? And as a community, we're all here to help you.
Yep, you will see if you post up painted stuff for me to look at. I will not ridicule you at all, right? I'm not going to say that's
no.
Even if I'm gonna use some ridiculing terms here, but even if I look at it, I'm like, geez, my 12-year-old daughter paints better than that. What I'm gonna look at, I'm gonna give you ideas of like, okay, here's a good start. Look at this. Take these steps. Do these things next. I entered the Mayacast Masterclass competition once, and I did the white noise one. And the white noise one they did, and it was my cure now, and they did a comments, right, basically about what could be done different. And when they got to mine, they talked about it, and everything they said, I mean, he actually was really positive, and like, I don't know what else, because they made a comment like, yeah, he really used the colors very well. That's somebody who understands color theory. Granted, yep. I have a degree that deals with color, so
about time you use that damn thing.
I know. I was like, son of a bitch, I learned something. But listening to all of his stuff, because there were ones on there that I was like, yeah, that's not great. But he was the same thing, was like, hey, look at this. Well, may thin your paints down. Maybe not do so many colors. Maybe, and so he wasn't like negative approach at all. And I think in some cases, there are times you have to be negative, like that's just not good, don't do it that way, but don't leave it at that. Then you go, okay, this is what you could do. So I think just getting stuff done is great. We have a local saying that says done is beautiful, right? Even if
done
it's not
is beautiful.
Even if it's not 100%, even if it's not top of the line in display quality, you got your colors on there, it's not bare metal. That effort is, I think, recognized universally in the community as a good deal. You're not playing the great silver horde. You're playing somebody who's actually put some effort into putting some paint on there. And I think that's just, that's phenomenal that people do that. Because again, some people play the game because they like playing the game, but they can't paint or hobby. So that's very difficult for you and for them. So
yeah, and if there's something that inhibits you from having fun or enjoying something, you're not going to do it. I mean, if you burn your hand, that's not fun. That's not enjoyable. Well, for most people. And if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. That's how we learn. And so as painters, as hobbyists, we have to kind of get over that hump of this looks like garbage. It doesn't look like this masterpiece. It's not about learning to walk. You don't start out as being able to run a 100-yard dash. You start out having to crawl. And we forget as humans that that's something that we have forgotten because we were so young, that we've always known how to walk. We've always known how to run. And painting is the same thing, except now we're, 16, 18, 20 years old, and it's not as intuitive.
Well, I mean, so you look at it this way, like everybody started. So if you're comparing yourself to Angel Heraldez, right? If you're comparing yourself to these big name stuff, you're like, well, this sucks. I can't do this. Bear in mind, those people have been painting a long time. I graduated college in 97, right? So I've been painting a long time, and I still look at some other people's stuff. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I have no idea how you do that.
And not only that, but also, you hit the nail with these big name people. These big name people, 95 to 99% of them, it's their job. So let that sink in. If hobbying is not your full-time occupation, it's okay to not be as good as some of these big name people.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There are a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of, now it's Patreon, has a lot of these big name artists you can follow when they'll do tutorial steps. Granted, those can be misleading also, because you see them do it, and there's like, oh, well, that looks super easy. All I did was put a little paint here, put a little paint there, and they just wipe the paintbrush over. It looked really good.
Yeah.
What you have to remember when doing that stuff is they know the consistencies of the paints, right? So they've got the mix. They can physically look at them where you're kind of guessing because it's a video, right? They also know there's a pressure. So when you put the paintbrush to the model, the pressure you're applying is just like when you're writing with a pencil, right? The harder you push, the darker that line is. So there's that touch feel, there's that tactile feel. So all of that is a learned behavior. It is learned technique. It's not something that you're like, oh, I did step 1, step 2, so step 3 should look like this. It doesn't work that way.
No, and you really, in my opinion, just hit the nail on the head in that there is a technique that they have learned. And a lot of hobbyists, myself included, you have to find your own way. What may work for, that YouTuber or that guy that you're watching, or that article that you're reading online, or hell, that book that you're reading, that may not be the exact way that will work for you. But if you can glean something off of it, if you can, get a little bit of information from it to think about, oh, that one shoulder blade, I really liked how that turned out. Try to replicate that aspect on your next model, on the next model, and the next model. And then by the time you move from that one shoulder blade, you're doing a whole chest piece, you're doing a whole torso. And you're doing, not only the chest piece, the torso, the head, the arm, everything. And then you're moving on to more advanced things.
Yeah, there's a couple of friends of ours that have a podcast. They actually have a statement of just paint a boot. I'm just going to sit down and paint a boot, right? Because the idea is it's a starting point. Like, I'm just going to paint this one boot. So you get the boot done, right? And then I'll just go ahead and I'll just paint up to the knee. And the idea behind it is you just go in little steps. Just don't sit down going, I'm going to paint this model. Go step down, sit down and go, I'm going to paint this piece. There are, kind of what you were saying before, is there are two people that I really follow. James Wobble is one, and Ben Comments, which I'm guessing it's pronounced Comments. I'm not sorry, Ben, if that's not right.
I think so.
It's Komets. So they both have different styles. So Ben uses what's called a loaded brush technique. So he has a color on the brush, and then the tip of the brush has the lighter shade, and it's basically a wet blending-esque type approach. Where James has a watercolorist approach, right, where he actually is moving around and he's painting the whole model. So you'll see people who post pictures like, look, I've got this right arm done, and the rest of the model is still primer. James will paint the entire model at once.
And it's done.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch. It is super frustrating to try to duplicate if you're coming from a traditional miniature painting background. I came from a painting background, so it made sense to me. I knew what he was doing, but it's against most of their stuff that you see because again, he'll miss stroke and get red on a part that was blue, and then he'll just kind of touch it up and clean it up. No big deal. Yeah, it's all working at once.
The first time I watched one of his videos, I was like, yeah, I am a blithering idiot, maybe even a blind chimpanzee with a paintbrush in my mouth.
Yeah, but I will say one of the things that was kind of cool is that I've reached out to James directly on Facebook Messenger and asked him questions, and he is almost every time within a matter of 30 minutes gotten back to me and had a conversation with me.
Oh, yeah. And I can attest to that as well. I mean, James Wobble and Kathy Wobble are some of the best artists that are out there. They've got their own podcast, they've got their own Patreon, and they are more than willing to strike up a conversation with you and explain to you in almost excruciating detail how they did something. And, there again, while they are not necessarily true Infinity members of the community, they're artists and they want to share their art with you. And I think that speaks a large testament to a lot of the miniature artists that are out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of, right? There are a large
Oh yeah,
group.
there's always going to be that jackass.
Well, there's a large group out there who are going to help you, right? They're going to assist you. They're going to comment. They're going to give you critiques. And then when you go to competitions and if you get to that level where you start competing in the same category as them, their demeanor is going to change, right? Because now you're in a direct competition with them.
Yeah.
Some of them will still be friendly, but some of them will not because you're not in old school. You're not in part of the internal club. You haven't proven yourself, which...
You haven't paid your dues, son.
Yeah, which, okay, fine, I get, but still, come on, really?
Yeah, and that is a rabbit hole that I don't think we want to go down in any way, shape, or form of competition painting, because that's not what we're about with being a beginner podcast.
Nope, you're right. So, but anyways, I think, it's just kind of interesting some of the stuff that you can come up with, or people can come up with, in the hobby world.
It is, very true.
All right, we did kind of really delve down on the Hobby Wobble rabbit hole there.
The Hobby Wobble.
So, I'm trying to think of where I wanted to go from there. I actually had a point before, and then we got totally sidetracked there.
Oh, that choo-choo train got derailed.
Yeah, I will say that there was a post on, I don't know if it was the WGC, about what Infinity podcasts were out there, and then I was following the comments. And I never posted because somebody else mentioned us. And so I'm like, all right, I don't need to come in there and tell us. But some of the people were like, yeah, this one's really good. This one's really good. The other ones, I don't like talking to guys who are just, drunkenly talking about what they really like, or the tournament they just went to, or the people they know, or the guy that I'll never meet, or this, that, or the other thing, and what they think is funny. And I'm just like, I think they're talking about us.
Talking about us.
I think he's talking about us.
And that brings up a larger point, is there are podcasts. If this isn't the podcast for you, that's fine. Because, MyCast, Remote Presence, L-Host, or Lost, as James Chavot just loves to hear. Nope. But the point is, there are tons out there. I mean, Ryan and I listen to White Noise. We listen to MyCast. Listen, to L-Host.
I listen to them all.
Presence. Yeah, listen to them all. And, it's something that is always on, and, it's great because the community is that diverse.
I think we should start calling it Lahoist now.
Lahoist. Give it a nice Hawaiian feel.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, God, that's Lahoist. Yep, that's it.
Lahoist.
All right, everybody, start referring to it as Lahoist. Let's just see how long it takes for us to get an email telling us to stop it.
Yeah. James will probably PM me as soon as this drops and be like, asshole.
You guys suck. So anyways, yeah, it's interesting. I think there are a lot of podcasts out there. Like there's not enough out there. I mean, I don't listen to the radio in my car anymore. I literally listen to podcasts 100% of the time I'm in my car. And so when I get through them all, I kind of like, oh, damn it. And so I have to go to my other non-gaming podcast just to fill the space. But I could listen to Infinity stuff all the time because it just keeps me thinking about it. It doesn't seem to improve my game any, but I keep thinking about them, and it just kind of keeps me in the world, keeps me motivated, keeps me looking for new stuff.
Yeah, and keeping you in the world, with Third Offensive dropping, okay, so you got your book last night, I got my book last night. How much of it did you get a chance to actually read and absorb?
Well, so I didn't read a whole bunch of it. I read, so what I typically do, we'll flip to the different army sections that I like and look at hold on, I'm flipping one open right now. You may hear the pages flipping in the back. And so I'll look at the troops thing, where it just has like, basically like the tank hunter lieutenant, and so you read about that dude and that stuff, right? So you kind of just read their little blurb about that specific unit type, which is typically what I do. So I did it combined and I read their stuff. And then I flipped to the mercenaries and I kind of read some of theirs. But I haven't had a chance to really sit down and start reading the story as it is. But as Rob and I actually had a conversation this morning after I did that, it's really funny because he and I both had a conversation and we were both right in some predictions we had. Because so what happened early on is when Bit and Kiss went to the combined army. I had a conversation with Rob and I was like, you know what? I don't think she was subsidized, right? I think she went saw what the Combined Army was doing, and that was what she wanted all along. And I think she volunteered. I think she's not subsidized, right?
And I agreed with that.
Yeah. Well, so if you flip the Combined Army troops, Bit and Kiss is the first entry, right? And it says in that she saw what she wanted in the world to be, and she said, "Let me help.
Yep.
Train me.
Sign me up."
Yeah. It says, the last line is, and she has an objective, the same as the previous one, change the world, although it requires using more aggressive methods. Now, the reason you know she's not subsidized, right, because it says she went to it, but also Special Operative Kodali's in here, and it literally calls out that she was subsidized.
Yeah, and I still read that as, she is a force to be reckoned with, because I think that she realizes, even in a subsidized state, because, don't really know what that means, but she knows that she has been lied to, and she's pissed. And hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Yeah, but I think even so, the subsidized piece still is going to override that, right? Because they are not giving her the opportunity. They're not giving her the option.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I will say, it does still beg my question: are the Combined the bad guys?
And I think that's still, at this point in time, and I have not read through all the Third Offensive, but at this point in time, in my opinion, it's still a perspective.
Well, yeah, I think Eugene have promoted themselves to be more of the bad guys. I think Pano has put themselves out there to be more of the bad guys, which leads me to go, well, Aleph, quote unquote, controls both of those. So really, I think Aleph is the bad guys of the whole world.
Could be.
Change my mind, Rob.
Okay,
change my mind. They are controlling everything. They're controlling the media. They're controlling what you see. They're controlling what you're able to do. Huh?
All true. But don't you also? Okay, since we're in the holiday season, so let's talk about Santa Claus. Let's talk about the elf on the shelf, shall we? So we kind of.
Are you gonna call that how I ruined my daughter's Christmas?
No, you just did. But I was just going to say that there are things that we like to tell children and the mass populace so that they can be obedient. And so, is that evil, or is that a self-preservation for the good of the whole?
But everybody thrives on freedom and free speech, right? That's the one thing everybody screams. Gotta have free speech. Gotta have the freedom to make the choices, Rob. If you're not making the choices, if the choices are being dictated to you,
you still have the choices, even if they are being dictated to you. It's not the same as you can only have this one bowl of gruel. We are giving you the option of this bowl of gruel or these other 3 bowls of gruel. One may actually have salt in it.
Fine, because you look. Okay, if your choices are, hey, your life can suck in this way, your life can suck in this way, or your life can suck in this way, it doesn't matter. Your life's still gonna suck, Rob. It's still, those aren't great choices. I mean, there was several years ago, there was another country that tried to make choices for everyone else, and see, that's so frowned upon now.
Kinda. I mean, that's where Ariadne comes in.
There are people right now that are freaking out.
Yeah, they're like, I don't remember reading this in the book. Where the hell did these people come up with this?
Yeah, I do say that. I do think, it does. Everything's a shade of gray, right? So
very true.
Pano's going to look at it as we made tough choices to, like you said, preserve our humanity, right? Combined Army is going to be like, we are attacking and killing all of these innocents because we are going to liberate and free as many as we can, right? So again, it is perspective. I think that is one thing that makes Infinity really cool, is that I think every army probably is good and evil, right?
Oh yeah,
look at Toha. Yeah, yep. Toha. I mean, they set up Ariadne, but they've been fighting the Combined Army for their freedoms forever. So I think it's one of those things. There are other games that we have played where, like, okay, these guys are the good guys. They're the standard emperors. They're the standard dwarves. These guys are chaos. They only want death and destruction. Yep. It's pretty hard to say they're not the evil force.
No, and I honestly think that that's one of the things that really puts Infinity above the other games in my mind. Is one, the players are deciding a lot of things that happen in the actual storyline that become canon. That's super cool. And then the games that you play have that storyline feel to it because you are a Black Ops commander. And so
Yeah.
because you're going after an objective, I could see when reading, because I also read the entry for Kodali, I could see the game being played out in the thematic way that was being described by the one other Tiger soldier that she, ordered. You get this, information back to HQ and don't worry about me. I've done this before. And so, I could see not only the game being played out, but I could also see the, Medal of Honor. I think they called it the Gold Star or something like that in Yu Jing Fluff, where that was her medal citation of how she did these great and glorious things for the Empire and fell in battle and now is coming back to haunt everybody.
Yeah, I will still question the amount that the community changes the story, simply because if you look at the Dire Foes box set, that stuff, box sets, that stuff they've been doing for 10 years now, this led to the story.
Right,
so really, I don't know how much, if you look at the Beasts of War campaigns, how much of those did the community really affect the outcome? Did CB already have it, the idea where we wanted it to go, and could kind of manipulate those numbers and twist the outcome the way they wanted to? So who knows?
Like the Alive group and Bit and Kiss, that was decided, as I understand it, or as I'm remembering it, that was decided at one of the interplanetarios what the fate of the Alive group was going to be, and the winner of that interplanetario was a combined army player, and that's how Bit and Kiss became part of the combined army. Now I could be wrong on that. So
no, I think you're right. But anyways, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But it's just, I mean, I still, whatever. It's still cool. I still like most of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah, and talking about the cool factor, I did read through the Ada Swanson, who is the ITS Season 10 limited exclusive miniature, and as being part of the Shazvasti Expeditionary Force. And one of the things that I liked about this was, and it didn't say it in the book, or at least I don't remember it, she is an underworld, smuggler-esque type thing, one of the fine upstanding citizens of Mos Eisley, where there is, never been a bigger hive of scum and villainy. But in her storyline, she has, the original Ada Swanson has been killed, has been replaced by
spoilers, Rob. Spoilers.
Oh, whatever. People, by the time this podcast drops, people have already devoured this book and are like, personal flex paper, you need to be faster. But I see where the fluff and a lot of the community has pointed to the artistic designs, if you will, of a lot of the Nomad stuff, having that combined army feel and having, an EI type flair to it. And I can see that this underworld connection between the Nomads and the Shazvasti and how they're getting this tech, that is something that is, to me, the cat's meow, because there were so many people that when the Ada Swanson miniature dropped, they were like, oh, it looks too humid. It should look more alien. It's a Shazvasti operative. Not if they're incognito.
Yeah, I will say that I did really like that. How there was an Ada Swanson who was this smuggler, Black Ops chick who was known, like everybody used her, so she was accepted by all the things, but she was replaced by a Speculo. So it's not the Ada Swanson that you are getting is not the real Ada Swanson, right? So I think that was really cool to me. So, and then I was kind of like, oh, now it has now gone, and we're like, well, now I need to get that because I'm going to make a Speculo killer and I'm going to use that model.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where, the storyline and the players and people, really not understanding the whole plan. It's kind of like the whole Battlestar Galactica. The Cylons are back and they've got a plan. I see that is, like you said, with the Dire Foes box, 10 years in the making. Corvus Belli's got a plan, and I'm excited for it. Now, whether or not the human sphere can survive it, that remains to be unseen.
Yep, that's true. I will say that a lot of the stuff that they put out recently, like fluff-wise, is pretty cool. I mean, I do really like it. With the release of the role-playing books, I don't have enough time to read it all, so I will pick it up and just try to read sections of it and things that have interest to me. I'm not the strongest of readers. I typically read in the evenings. We're going to go to bed, and so I can make it like 2 or 3 pages before my eyes start closing on me. And again, it's because if I'm sitting up, and I'm awake and doing something, I'm not going to be sitting down and reading. I'll typically try to do some painting. I'm watching TV with the wife, pulling my portable paint table in there and doing that stuff and trying to get those things because I can't have the TV on and read at the same time.
Nice.
Yep. So, I mean, I've only had the Third Offensive book in my hand for a little over 24 hours now, so I haven't gotten much in it. But we thought we would cover 2 rules for the rule of the episode. And the reason being is because they're new and they both deal, and I'm going to say with the same thing, and when I say that I mean extra orders. So one of those is NCO. So Rob, do you have your book handy? You ready to talk about NCO?
I have my book, but I'm going to need to clear some space.
All right, page 185. Read along, everyone. All right, so normally we don't like to read the rules to you. We talk about how they work in the game. However, in this case, since they're new, I figured I'd go ahead and read the rule. It's also a sentence, so I think we can do that. All right, so
yeah,
NCO.
I think we got that one covered.
NCO is an automatic skill that is optional, meaning you do not have to use it if you don't want to. This skill allows its owner to use the special lieutenant order, considering it as another regular order of their command group. So what that means is, right now, the lieutenant order can only be used as lieutenant. The lieutenant can use that as a regular order to do whatever he can. He cannot use that if he's in a fire team. If the lieutenant uses the order in the fire team, it breaks him out of the fire team. Now, the NCO is basically the second command. Like, he's the lieutenant's trusted second. So he's able to make decisions on his own for the team and people follow him, right? So he's able to take that lieutenant order and use it. So you now have 2 models in your army that can use the lieutenant order. Now, the other piece is, if he's in a fire team, it turns the lieutenant order into a regular order that he can use, meaning he can use that order in a fire team and without breaking him out. They also do not need to be in the same combat group. So the lieutenant can be in group 1 and he can be in group 2 and he can still use a lieutenant order. Where it comes in handy is basically if you have a mobile fire team that you're going to use, but for the sake, for example, Pano, a lot of Pano have lieutenants that are hiding in the back just trying not to get killed. Well, instead of that lieutenant order sitting there doing nothing, a model can spin that and move it up and do something with it. Where it won't come in handy is if your lieutenant has Strategos at all. Like Strategos level 1 turns the lieutenant order into a regular order. Well, NCO is not going to do any good then because it's already a regular order that anybody can use. So if you, for instance, in the Morats, if you take a Raktarak with NCO, but Kornak is your lieutenant, you're throwing points away.
Yep.
It will only come in handy if Kornak then dies and you have to elect a new lieutenant. Then the Raktarak NCO can use that lieutenant order if he wasn't the one you nominated as the lieutenant.
Yeah, and it's also helpful for a lot of new players figured out that there are some armies that have limited lieutenant options. This is a way to kind of hide that lieutenant a little bit better. So you can use this NCO skill to use your lieutenant order for something that is not your lieutenant. And so that way you're still being able to move up, gather the objective, use that fire team, get that fire team into position. So it helps newer or more limited forces.
Yep, it's just another handy little skill you have. Now the second rule, and I'm going to go into this and then kind of talk a little bit about both of those 2 together, is tactical awareness. So tactical awareness, or model with tactical awareness, basically gets an irregular order that only they can use. So if it's, let's just say, because I know it off the top of my head, the Syriat with heavy machine gun and tactical awareness, he's going to generate a regular order that's going to go to the pool and an irregular order that can only be used by him. You cannot spend a command token to change that irregular order to a regular order. It's only irregular, can only be used by him. Now again, if he's in a fire team, he can actually use that irregular order if he is the link team leader in the fire team without breaking it. Right.
Yep.
Normally, irregular orders, if you're using a regular order on the link team, it's going to break them. When I say break, it means pull a
The
model
link team.
out of the fire team. Right. This game, the orders are a resource. If you run out of orders, you run out of options to do stuff. Both of these, NCO and Tactical Awareness, allow you to have more resources than you normally would be allowed for the groups. The reason that that's important is because, again, if you run out of orders, you're not able to do stuff. So you need to have those options. I think it really opens up the game and how you use things and how you position stuff. I think both of these are great as long as they don't become a common rule. I think if you go into a sectorial and, half of the options have NCO and half of the options have tactical awareness, it's going to kind of spoil that.
Yeah. It's almost like as if, a little spice is great on food, but as soon as you pour too much on it, it's ruined.
Yeah. I think that both of those are going to change, especially limited insertion order lists. For example, there is a Morat list you can build that is limited insertion, but it has 14 orders. It has Cornac as a lieutenant, so his lieutenant order is becoming a regular order and takes 3 Syriat HMGs with tactical awareness. And you throw one of the Syriats in a Harris with Cornac. You throw one of the Syriats in a core with Vanguard, and you throw one of the Syriats in a duo, right? So you then have 3 different fire teams that can use those
special orders or special rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, in my opinion, what you just described is going to give you a lot more tactical flexibility and strategic flexibility for a limited insertion list. And when you're talking about a limited insertion list, what was it? You were telling me about a list that you created that was limited insertion that had what, 13, 14 orders?
Well, yeah, it was more than that. No, it was 14, but it was also vanilla combined.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It took 2 renegades, Krakout renegades, right? So they're a regular order and an impetuous order. It took 1 tactical awareness dude, tactical awareness Syriat, and took Cornac. So Cornac had 2 regular orders. The tactical awareness guy had the regular order, and then the irregular order that he could use. It's not as effective because it's vanilla, right? But the idea is still there. It's just still a lot of orders.
Yeah, but considering if I was to run an U.S. Ariadne limited insertion, I'm going to be hard pressed to get 10 orders and 300 points.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's super hard. And so when you're saying, "Oh yeah, I got 14 orders," I'm like, "Son of a monkey! I would love to have 14 orders. I could do some shit with that." But it's the way that the game is designed. And you have to be creative. You have to be able to look at the list and, be like, oh, this guy gives me 2 orders. This guy gives me the ability to have this order and this order and this skill. And it's understanding that, complex synergy really, in my opinion, puts Infinity at one of the top level games.
Yep, it is totally one of the things that you have to figure out how to utilize and utilize right.
Correct. And it's also one of the games that can be one of the most frustrating things, but at the same time so fun because you have to learn how to, get your teeth kicked in so that you can be like, ooh, okay, I see what you did there. I like it. I'm gonna try this other thing, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Yep. So it brings up a question. A lot of the Facebook group posts you've read, you'll talk about, and people will talk about orders and the amount of orders to have, and that Infinity is an orders resource game, and so high orders are actually better, right? Which I'm going to say that's kind of mission specific, also army list, also because typically if you have a bunch of high orders, you've got weedy dudes that aren't going to be as effective. Now, if you just need to go up and push a bunch of buttons and get out, and you've got a bunch of smoke throwers, you can throw a bunch of smoke, run up, slam all the buttons, and then run away and hide, then that's one thing, right? But I don't feel that limited insertion orders are not as effective as high 20 order lists, right? I don't think that it's a black and white. Oh, more orders is better. You'll hear a lot of people say, "Well, my sweet spot is 14 to 15 orders," and I've played both. I played a higher order account. When I say higher order, I mean 15 orders or so. I've never played a 20 order account list, simply because the small weedy dudes don't appeal to me as much as the big stompy robots, or the heavily armed dudes. So I don't know, or I don't feel that that's really the case. I don't feel that high order counts are wins, right? I think a lot of people feel that a higher order count army has a better chance, and I don't think that's really the case.
No, I agree with you. I think that a lot of it has to do with how you are running your army, what your plan is, and understanding the mission. I am guilty as sin of not understanding the mission, and I've recently been going through Comlog, an app that is available on Android. And as I understand it, an Iowa incident was the bee's knees. I mean, everybody who was there had Comlog and was using it to understand and read up on the mission, as opposed to thumbing through the PDF. I've been using that app specifically to try to up my game, even though I haven't been able to play in what seems like forever, but to better understand the missions and what the objectives are and build lists to those points. Because playing the game is one aspect, building the list is another aspect. And I know we've talked about it on other shows, because Ryan, you will, think about the lists as you're driving to work, listening to podcasts, or, you will play around with lists and what things should be. And that's something that I am not as good at. In fact, I'm probably a horror about it. But trying to understand the weak points of your game and up that game so that you can get better is, in my opinion, part of the learning process. And I've been playing this game for 2.5 years now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always the after action report, right? So you're thinking about what you did, where you messed up, things you could have done different. I think when looking back, bear in mind it's a dice game, so some things odds are in your favor, and things don't go your way. I don't think that's an excuse. I think Joel Vaughn has put it best once, that if you lose your game because your piece got crit and you didn't have a backup plan, then the fault is on you, right? It's not on the game. Right. It's not on the mechanic of the crit. It's that you did not have a backup plan. You were a one-trick pony, and your one trick lost, and you had no other plan.
No, that's a good point, because I want to say it was in our local Kansas City Infinity page, one of our players who is experimenting, he is combined army curious, has been experimenting with different lists, dealing with bringing an avatar. And one of the guys from Oklahoma, who is also a member of our group, pointed out that, the way that you attack this list is not by attacking the avatar, it's by attacking the orders that go to feed the avatar. You strip those and the avatar is dead in the water because it can't do anything, or it's not as effective at doing those things. And I thought that was really interesting because, to your point of what Joel, who has been on Le Hoist recently, is talking about, is that one-trick pony. What are you doing to support that avatar? What are you trying to do if that avatar goes down? Are you still able to, continue the mission?
Yep, it is. It's definitely reprogramming your brain to not take out I was like, I want the big fancy monster robot, right? I want the big fancy thing that's going to do all the stuff. Robots. Yeah, I'm going to do the big. Same thing with Marut. I played a game against our local guy who took a Marut list, and he'd moved it up, and I stepped Kernow out, who shot a pitcher. And so he was like, okay, that's fine. And then my Nexus hacker goes, beep, 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 beep. And I possessed it. On one order, possessed it. And then I took his Marut around and killed a bunch of his own stuff, right?
Yeah. A Marut is a killing machine.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. It was really cool. Granted, the only reason it wasn't, I crit hacked it. I crit possessed it. So he didn't even have an option at that. So it was one of those times where the crit really, wow, well, that sucks. The game wasn't over. I mean, he got it back the next turn. He moved up, so it was still in the game, but it was one of those things that was like, wow, that was, better than expected. But when you take a big 100 plus point thing and something happens to it,
120 points.
Yeah, it's hard. I will say that I also use the comm log to go back to that, which is a great addition to the community, and thanks Mike for putting that together and all the people who've helped him. But you can actually now create an event. So I put this limited insertion order tournament that we're looking at the Dragon's Hoard in Lawrence in January, and I put assign the missions to it. So now as I'm doing lists and sitting there, I will pop them up and read over them. Okay, so in this one I'm going to do this. All right, in this one I'm going to do this. So I think that is what makes it really helpful too, is that ability to really just kind of analyze the list and the missions, right? So you can just I just sit there, I don't have to fish through, I don't have to go, okay, which ones was it, and pop back and forth. I just assign the 3 that I know, and then I'm like, I'm just going to keep this on hand and reference it. So
yeah, and I think Infinity is also a game of efficiencies. We've talked about order efficiencies, we've talked about list efficiencies, but I think prep efficiency is also something that we haven't touched on in any way, shape, or form. And being efficient in how you prepare for the game also helps you, because you play how you practice. And if you are efficient in the way that you practice, you're going to be efficient in the way that you play.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those things you do. This is a game you cannot play a handful of times a year and still be competitive. You can still have fun, but you can't be competitive, which is good and bad, right? That is going to be a breaking point for some people. There is a learning curve, and then you have to relearn it. It's going to be tough. I used to build a list of stuff that I wanted to take. This is a list I want to play, and then I would build 2 lists for a tournament, and I would almost 100% of the time play one list, right? Yeah. Almost
I'm
always.
Guilty of that.
Right. The last tournament that I played in, I actually built 2 lists, and I built them for the missions, right? And that is a different activity. That is a different mental exercise. If you want to be competitive, that's really kind of what you need to do, right? Because if you take a bunch of specialists to flip switches, but then you get you're playing the scenario that your opponent gets points for killing specialists, and all your dudes are specialists.
Yeah,
you're setting yourself up to lose. So I think looking at the scenarios, if you want to play competitive, is handy. I think if you're just looking to play, you're going to go for your weekly store and just play fun. I think you just build whatever you want, right? I think it's a good place to start. Always just build whatever you want to start with, because it's going to get you motivated to get out there and play them, and then to make adjustments from there. One of the things that I'm doing with my Onyx that I've been doing is I built the list I wanted to play, put it together, started playing it, and then I've made tweaks, but there have been minor tweaks. Like, I used to take the Nexus Lieutenant Hacker, Kurnow, and 4 Unidrons, and then I would swap Kurnow or the Lieutenant in that 5-man to make that a 5-man link team with the Nexus, and the Nexus with the Unidron, and the Unidron would have a missile launcher and a sniper rifle, and then 2 plasma carbine dudes. Now, what I have come to find out is if I put that Nexus Hacker in that link team, and then it's my turn, and my Q-Drone, I want to put the sport one on the Q-Drone, well, my entire link team activates, right? So even if my Nexus is out of line of sight, and I put the hacking program to give marksmanship to my Q-Drone, well, if they've got ARO at my sniper rifle, they're going to take that shot and probably drop that dude, and I haven't done anything, right? So I would put Kurnow in there. Well, then Kurnow's sitting back in the back, kind of hanging out, and I'm not able to use his impersonation, his cyber mask, right, and move him up. So I've found that, like, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to throw 5 Unidrons in this list and make some other adjustments and move both of these guys out. It gives me 2 more models that I can add to that link team, or, well, I can add one of those. I can add one of those. So if a Unidron dies and I need to make that a 5-man link team, Kurnow or the Nexus can jump back in there, and I've got a 5-man link team again, right? It gives me that option. But I've actually gotten more use out of that out of that combo of 7 models than I was before when they were 6 models. But back to my point is I didn't scrap the list and start all over. I took the pieces I had learned from. I took what's worked. I will tell you now, if you play me and I have a Nexus or an E-drone hacker and I have a Q drone, I am almost 100% of the time going to take the first turn, depending on the
murder
mission,
dudes.
and I'm going to put the support wear on the Q drone, and I'm going to Rambo that son of a bitch up. Because I've done it now almost every time that I play it. Because it's really effective when you do that. Now, it is also a bit of a crutch. Because once you get the Q drone dropped, like I've had multiple times where he's gone up in his first line, and then I've flubbed my roll and taken it, and the Q drone goes down, and well, now I'm like, well, damn it, what do I do now?
Let's talk about this. All right, so how did you arrive at knowing that was the way that you wanted to play that support wear, and going up and Ramboing that sumbitch up? How many games did you play or have to play in order to understand that aspect? And then that's point one. So I'll let you answer that, and then I've got another follow-up question for that.
I knew going into it that was going to be my first offensive strike piece. I knew building the list, that's what I was going to do. I was going to have a 5-man Unidron, sniper rifle, missile launcher, defensive link team, and my Q drone was going to be my Rambo effective piece. Now, what I learned is there are times that I would push the Q drone with 1 or 2 more orders to try to kill another model or two, which it then puts the Q drone now out of. I'm out of orders. The Q drone is sitting up here, no longer effective for my opponent's next turn, or it allows him to sneak around and pop that Q drone and then do what he needs to do, right? So what I've learned is I need to have a plan. I'm going to spend these orders. I'm going to kill this model, or I'm going to attempt to kill this model, and this model with a Q drone, and then I'm going to put him in this position, and then I'm going to move this stuff. I don't Rambo him with all 10 orders, rushing him up there just trying to kill as much stuff as possible. Now you can, and sometimes you do, and sometimes the bloodlust gets a hold of you, and you do that. But I think the Q drone is the most effective total reaction bot that there is, simply because he has mimetism.
Right.
Your opponents, and if you put marksmanship on him, right, and then you rush him up there, he's got shock ammo, he's ignoring cover, and your opponent's got to be at a -3 to shoot at him, right? So, yep. I mean, he's ballistic skill 11. Hopefully you're in good range. You're not taking the -4 cover. So he's typically going to be hitting on 14s on 4 dice, and that's just really good. Now, the other thing to think about is if he survives the first turn, your second turn, your ARO turn, he's going to have the support wear on him. But then your next turn, that support wear goes away. So you've either got to put it on him again or do something else. And more than likely, your hacker is not going to be within 8 inches of him, and you're not going to have a repeater within 8 inches of him, which means you're going to have to spend some orders to move your hacker or a repeater up there just to do that trick again. Yeah. Right? And at that point, that's where I was saying I'm better off putting him in a different position. That now he's just going to defensively hold this position, right? He's now, let's say, I'm going to spend these orders, I'm going to move this stuff up, and I can actually move a repeater back up closer to him now, so that my start of my next turn, I can do it again without having to spend any additional orders, and I've got zones of the battlefield covered and shut down.
Right. And then you've also got the psychological aspect of your opponent has just been murderized by that Q drone. So I'm not going to go over there. F that. So the follow-up question that I had was, in the times that you have done the Q drone Rambo trick and have lost it, you have flubbed the roll, what is your backup plan, and how did you derive at that backup plan?
Well, so the backup plan was built in when I started the list, because the one thing that I really was drawn to Onyx for was the Zeodrons, right? So I've been taking those.
Yep.
And I typically take the Zeodron with Red Fury, which is good up to about 24 inches. So he has to actually move up. Now he's only 4'4". He does have super jump, so he can move up. But so typically I'll move him up into somebody's grill to try to get some more attacks on it, right? Again, so Red Fury, so shock, so any one wound stuff by both of those attack pieces that are going to get dropped as soon as they fail an armor roll, they're off the game. But again, he's a shorter range weapon. Now, the current list I have, the reason I'm not 100% satisfied with it is I don't have enough points to make it the Red Fury, so I have to take the multi-rifle one. But if I make some switching around, then I don't have enough SWC to check to Red Fury. So I can't get that piece in there. So I'm still... And granted, it's only 8 inches, right? The difference between between the multi-rifle and the Red Fury. But that's impactful. That does make an effect. So my current thought process is I'm trying to figure out... I really like the Zeodrons, right? But with the latest updates, the Rodok Harris is available to Onyx. So I can take a Rodok Harris with HMG and then the Harris guy and then another boarding shotgun guy, maybe a paramedic, something else in there, and actually have them fill the same role or equivalent role of the Zeodron. And they're not hackable and have a longer range. So I typically like to have 2 long range weapons. The list right now does because it has the Unidron Spitfire. Again, I can put Sport War on that, so it can become marksman.
Yeah, murder machine.
Yeah, I have the HMG from the Total Reaction bot, and then I go to mid range weapons, which I have. I also have the missile launcher on the Unidrons. Then I go to the mid-range weapons that's where I'll get the Zeodron to go up and do stuff. So it works okay. I get better with it every time I play it. I learn something new, something different on how to do some things. The last game I played was with the other vanilla combined army guy. We have been playing, as we refer to them as combined army training missions, because we play
force on force missions.
Yeah, yep. And they have been bloody every time. Every time we get down to, like, I've got a guy left, you've got a guy left, or, all right, we're going to tie 2-2. He takes I think it's the anathematic.
Anathematic, yep.
With Hacker as his lieutenant. Well, I had Karnau who stepped out and just chucked a pitcher over there, right? So it was sitting there, and I'm like, you move, I've got a killer hacker, an E-drone, and my Nexus hacker. Now the E-drone's not going to do anything to it, but I've got 3 hackers that are now in range of that. So you move that guy, you've got to be cautious of that because that's a big model. Now he did end up in our game. I think he'd used it, and so he was already out of the TO camo state when I chucked he was, and when I chucked the repeater up there. And so I just spent orders on Kurnow, hacking him, and I got the hack through that drops him to unconscious, right? So it does all of his wounds. So he's got 2 wounds, drops him to unconscious, but now the anathematic has no wound in cap, so he kicked that on, and then I spent a couple other orders just trying to drop the anathematic, which I do, right? Now he has Genomonica, so it bounces to somebody else. He doesn't lose the lieutenant order, doesn't lose any of that stuff. But the anathematic is a big, hefty piece. Now, you can't do the same thing with the Avatar in this aspect because the Avatar is not going to matter by the killer hacker, but an assault hacker is going to be great, right? He also took a Speculo killer who was not as effective as a Speculo killer typically is. He chose not to reveal her a couple times, and I knew, so I'd actually had positions set up. So I'm like, okay, if you come out to do some stuff, you're going to get a ton of AROs, right? So you may kill a dude, but it's going to die, and that's it. We're gonna do some peace trading here, and unless you kill something that's more expensive, then I'm going to come out ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you do kill something that is going to help you achieve that mission, or that objective, is it worth it at that point in time? So...
Yeah. Now, in hindsight, he had the chance to come up and engage Kurnow and probably kill Kurnow, but he would have definitely died because the Zeodron, the Unidron plasma sniper rifle, and I think one other model had line of sight to it, so he would have eaten a bunch of AROs and died, but he would have dropped Kurnow, who then would not have been able to shoot the pitcher and kill his anathematic.
Now, Is that something that you guys talked about after the game? Did you have that after action report after the game to talk about, woulda, coulda, shouldas?
I don't do those as much, right? Because when you're looking at that stuff, right? When you're looking at the woulda, coulda, shoulda, it's like, well, had you done this, all this would have been different. Well, could have been, right? Because like, what if you failed those rolls? What
Yeah.
if you didn't kill me? Well, then you would have lost this piece because by moving him around, by moving the speculative killer around in the impersonation state, it actually caused me to move a little differently.
Yeah,
Right?
and I'm a big fan of what if scenarios. What if worms had machine guns? Birds wouldn't fuck with them. But, I do think that it is important for that after action report to just try to think about what could have done, what could have been, and how you could have done something different.
Yeah.
I know in my last game, against Zach, who's a really good player, I I learned that just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should do something. And in my game, it was me deploying completely wrong, and then realizing it about halfway through Zach's first turn, where I'm like, I'm gonna have a hard road to hoe on this thing. And then talking to Zach afterwards and been like, yeah, the only thing that you should not have done was deployed that guy there. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. And then thinking about what could have happened had I not deployed that guy there, because I did have some reservations.
Yeah. No, I mean we do. We still do talk about some things like that. For example,
Okay.
that was a game where my Q drone came up, and I actually had to take out his Q drone, and I flipped my rolls, and he dropped me on my first order of my second order of my Q drone moving up. So I spent the lieutenant order to put the support wear on it, an order for my Q drone to move up, and then another order, or maybe it was two orders to get my Q drone up in position, and then the third order he steps out and takes the shot, and I flub the shot, and he crits me, I think, and I go down, and I'm like, well, that sucked. Because I'm a lieutenant, so basically essentially 4 orders in, and I've got nothing to show for it. And I'm like, on my active turn on the first turn, right? I'm like, well, damn it, because had I dropped his Q drone, right, I had his Dr. Worm. I was in his back arc of his Dr. Worm, so I could have dropped Dr. Worm relatively easy, then slid over and taken care of an Imatron, and then I think there was something else behind the Imatron, another drone, I think. So I could have really, and he was only a limit insertion order list, and so I would have taken out the only healer he had, right, and possibly 4 orders. Well, that's a huge detriment on a limit insertion order on your first turn.
Yeah, that's a huge swing.
But so then we do talk occasionally about like after the game, like I wonder if you brought this, or basically ask like when you moved up here, why did you stop here? What was your thought by stopping here? Why didn't you push this out to try to kill this dude or do that? And like when we got to the end, now we did misread it. Like we were playing with HVTs, which actually were not in this scenario, so that's why it was like I think it was like 5-4. And so we're like, oh, well, HPGs aren't there, so we're actually 4-4. So,
Gotcha.
because I would have won because I moved a repeater up, and then I moved I moved 2 repeaters up, and he just was not going to have enough orders to take any points from me to do any of the objectives. He was looking at it, it's like I can't. I don't have it. So we actually just at that point we're looking, and basically at that point we just started talking like, okay, well, you could spend your orders on this and try to do, this, or maybe do this. And so he did try to make one run to do his classified objective, but he was, at that point, was dependent on a slave drone making it through my Unidrons, who I had really positioned, had line of fire. And so he just, it was a like, hope and a prayer. But, I mean, there's a chance that he pulls it off, right? But once he came out and I dropped it like the first shot, so it didn't work. And so then he was like, well, now I really don't have enough orders. And so we just kind of thought it was like, well, so you definitely want to kill this model, because right now this model is securing your HVT. So right now this model's giving me points. So if you can drop this model, then I don't know if this one is going to be within 8 inches. Right, so there's 2 models that are possibly securing you're securing your HVT. You've got nobody by mine, so that's going to give me the win unless you can drop these 2. So how are you going to drop these 2? And one of them was literally just takes the T drone, which is the missile launcher bot and just stepping out, hoping he can score the hit and catch both of them in the blast, which he would have, but the dice were not in his favor.
I was going to say he flubbed the dice.
He flubbed the dice, didn't make it. It was literally the last order of the game. Yep. So he couldn't have tried it a second time because all I could do was flashbulls him because it was just an R drone.
Yeah.
I mean, so we talked a little bit about that stuff. Moving up. So sometimes I will talk about, after the game, what I talk about, how much is that model? I mean, that's a 40-point model that you never spend an order on. So what's your thought process behind that? Why do that? Why take that big of a model? Or, what would be more effective is, let's just say, for example, you only have one attack piece, right? And you've got all the support stuff. You got these button pushers, and so you go up. Well, what happens when your one attack piece dies? Like, what's your next? How are you going to strip order to stop me from coming up? What's your next piece? Well, I've got 4 killer hackers. Well, great. So against Ariadne, you've got nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So, and some of that's list building stuff. But I mean, I think our local meta is really good. Our local gamers are really good about chatting about that stuff after the game too.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a that's a lot of Hobby Wobble and third offensive and games that we played and game theory.
Yeah. I hope that people got some interest out of this. It's I enjoy talking about this stuff. I am definitely gonna have a sore throat because my mouth is definitely dry now because I'm out of drink. But again, if you got questions, reach out to us. You can find us at Facebook on the Personal Flash Paper on Facebook. You can find us at the email at personalflashpaperinfinity@gmail.com. Do we have a Twitter? We do have a Twitter at Flashpaper News, but
at Flashpaper News. Yep.
I don't know if we ever really tweet. So
yeah, we're not really big tweeters.
No, I mean I have it. I look at it. I couldn't tell you the last time I tweeted. Oh, the last time I tweeted something was at Corvus Belly, but
yeah, and they responded if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they did. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. This is the time of year that I start planning my next year travel, hobby travel, game travel, tournament travel stuff. So we're looking into what's on the radar for that. Right now, the only one that I know of is going to be Mission Critical the beginning of May. That should be the first weekend of May. We will have Raj on to discuss that when it gets closer. That's a lot of fun. We have already called out our good buddy Danger Rose, who has now claimed that he is using us as the excuse that he has to go, and he's using that as an excuse to his wife because we have told him he has to go.
Yeah, there's 2 guys in Kansas City that are forcing a doctor from Panama to fly to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
just saying.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a movie somewhere.
Planes, trains, and abducting Doctors Without Borders. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now.
Yeah. But it's gonna be it's a lot of fun. I'm trying to figure out what else to do, what other ones I want to travel to. I'm definitely going to put Iowa Incident on the radar. I would look at Rumble, but it falls over the spring break time, and I'm not going to be able to pull that off, and it's now sold out. So
so there's no need to do anything with that. No, for me, it's going to be Mission Critical, Adepticon, and then I'm going to try to squeeze Iowa in there, but I'm already committed to ReaperCon, and the wife is kind of, really laid the hammer down on 3 traveling events. So I'll try to get a 4th one, but I don't think it's going to happen.
You're buying her a new house, Rob.
It's for both of us. And 3
Rob,
mutant cats.
You're buying her a new house.
Yeah, but we were selling the current house, so it's not necessarily, hey, look at this great thing that is all yours. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Yeah, but it's for her health.
And mine.
Well, that's for your mental health.
There is that.
So, all right. Again, like we said, reach out, holler at us. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you want us to talk about something else, want us to do something else, let us know.
Let us know. I mean, we're here to serve the peoples of the sphere.
Yep. On that note, we'll call it a night. It's taken us about 2 hours to do this, so let's just see how long this episode is.
Yeah, probably about an hour and a half.
Yeah, we had 2 technical issues that hopefully you guys will not even be aware of, but we'll see.
Yep, that's right. We'll see.
All right, I'll talk to everybody later. Have a good night. Have a good day. Have a good time in the sphere.
All right, good time, good time, good times.
I think we need to figure out a classic sign off, like, stay classy, Sphere, something like that.
We can always do the George Burns and Gracie Allen. Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie.
No, but see, it's got to be Infinity related. We gotta twist it. Say, I don't know.
Ooh, we could do a Facebook poll. See who's actually listening to this whole thing.
Oh, that's a good call. We should do that. All right,
We
you
should.
drop this one, and then we'll put the poll up after the episode's out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, see who listens to the end.
All right.
Bye everybody.
See you guys.